Hi guys, this is Vidas.
And Ausra.
Let's start episode 143 of Ask Vidas and Ausra podcast. This question was sent by Dan. And basically he comments after my question to him. I asked him what is he struggling with in organ playing currently. And he wrote, well, with the Walther piece especially, I find concentrating on the manual parts when the pedal enters to be a challenge particularly. As in this piece, he's got the melody in the pedal. I'm taking it way slower than this at the moment though. With the Bédard suite, we're doing things a little out of order. It's a 4-movement suite, so I covered the first movement and I'm working on the third right now. The third movement has a lot of suspensions in it, and I'm figuring out when parts move in those suspensions to be quite a challenge. But I'm getting it, and with the Dubois piece, it's just a case of getting it smooth and polishing it up. I've almost got it. So also he's practicing, I think, Walther's chorale prelude, one of the from the collection, and then French suite by Bédard, and then Dubois toccata. And with Walther, he finds it difficult to play the manual parts when the pedal enters correctly.
Well, yes, that's often the case with Baroque music, Baroque pieces.
Because it's mostly fugal writing, right?
Yes, that polyphonical texture, and it gives trouble to coordinate between feet and hand.
Imagine if it's like a fugate or even fugal texture, then let's say alto enters first, then the tenor, then the soprano, and only then the bass. At the instance where the bass or the pedals enter, then it's 4-part texture already.
Yes,
very
it's
thick.
a thick texture, and you have a lot of things to do, to think, to listen to.
I think people take the first tempo, practice tempo, according to the first line.
Yes.
Yes, and if in the first line you only have one voice, it's very easy, and they tend to play too fast.
That's true. And in general, I would suggest if you have pieces like this, start to learning them and to practice right away those harder spots. Don't play from the beginning. When you see that the texture is so thick, start learning those spots. In combinations first, to play pedals separately, and only then put things together and then start to learn those easier spots. Because otherwise, you can play piece nicely, but not those spots where the pedals come in. So in order, to make things even in the piece, throughout the piece, you need to start working at the hardest spots at the beginning.
That's very natural, right? Let's say if a piece is just one line, solo piece. We have some pieces like this, especially in contemporary music. I'm thinking about Messiaen and his movements from Le Corps Glorieux, let's say, right? For a single cornet stop, or a reed. So it's still difficult to play, but not as difficult as, let's say, 2 voices, right?
Yes, that's true. The more voices you have, the hardest it is. Unless it's homophonic texture, then it's another thing. But I'm talking about polyphonical texture.
So in the polyphonic texture, if it's just one line, and for everyone is different, but let's say you can play this one-line piece relatively slowly with a few mistakes, then you need to go back, correct them, and probably play it a few more times, right, Ausra?
Yes.
So
That's right.
5 or 10 times for one voice short episode. What happens if you have 2 voices? You have to repeat not 20 times but 30 times, because you have one line, the second line alone, and both lines together 30 times. And if you have 3-part texture, you have actually 7 combinations. That's why you have to play 70 times.
Your number scares me.
I know. It's
Stop counting.
And if you have 4-part texture, I'm not finished yet. If you have 4-part texture, guess how many combinations?
Too many for me to count.
15 combinations. And if you give each combination just 10 run-throughs, then you have 150 plays to do.
Well, you don't have to be so, mathematical, exact or precise, but the more voices you have, the more you have to practice.
Ausra, does it sound about right if you have 4-part polyphonic texture, chorale prelude or a fugue or fuguette, that you need to practice that many times in order to fully master it?
Yes, especially if you are a beginner.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about people with beginner skills,
Yes.
or early intermediate.
Yes. And another piece that he wrote about those suspensions. My suggestion would be to lean more on those, because suspension always marks a dissonant in music, and you have to lean more on dissonances, because after that the resolution usually comes. So that might help him too while practicing that piece.
You're right. What do you mean by lean on dissonances?
Well, I don't mean like physically lean on them, but listen to them and
make them longer.
Make them longer, yes.
A little.
A little bit, yes. Not too much, of course.
And play them legato, I think. The resolution,
yes.
Suspension and resolution has to be played legato.
Yes.
At least it has to sound legato.
Yes.
If a very reverberant room, maybe you could articulate a little bit. But if it's a dry acoustics, definitely you need to play legato. Those 2 notes.
Yes.
And with Dubois toccata, I think he is on the right track, right?
Yes. Although don't practice that piece too fast, too often, because it might get muddy after a while.
So maybe then dotted rhythms and reverse dotted rhythms might help. Slowing down and playing tan ta tan ta tan.
Yes, and every time when you practice, play it in a slow tempo too, not just in a fast tempo.
Mm-hmm. True.
That will help to keep things clean.
Okay. It's just a matter of spending time.
Sure.
And he will get it eventually.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Please send us more of your questions. We love helping you grow, right, Ausra?
Yes.
And remember, when you practice,
Miracles happen.